found this rad dad mug. I don't know whose it is, but it was in the cupboard, so. Say, hey HC Youth, what is up? Welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk, or Iced Tea Talk. We've kind of been getting off brand a little bit. I'm here today with Pastor Kevin. He's on staff here at Heritage Church as our
Care Ministries pastor. And so Pastor Kevin oversees,
just being with people in lots of different situations and stages of life and offering pastoral care. And so he's someone that I go to all the time. I'm constantly knocking on his door, looking for insight, looking for help, personally or with things I'm not sure how to handle. Some fun facts about Kev. He lives right next to Eisenhower High School, Mallow, if anybody goes there, and helped out with the
Ike cross country team for several years.
There you go, cross country. So if anybody here runs cross country,
Go Eagles.
There you go. PK's about that life, so he used to help with coaching with that. So been involved, worked with students, and like I said, been a huge help for me personally. And like you guys know, in this Coffee Talk series, we've been looking at some important areas, some big questions, going off the verse Romans 12:2, which says, let God transform you by changing the way you think. And I think it just really highlights the fact of how important it is how we think about things, right? I guess just to start us off today, what is stress and anxiety? How do you kind of like define that? How do you set that up?
Stress would be an external threat, a stressor. Anxiety would be, really it's a dimension of fear. And I just read an article that said typically about 6% of Americans are feeling anxious at any time. And that's up to 30% now during this COVID pandemic.
Wow.
Which is reasonable because the future's uncertain. We have this kind of ill-defined, invisible threat that we really are struggling to get our heads around and our hands on. So that's understandable that we should feel a bit anxious, because of the uncertainty and this threat. Yeah, for sure. It's like one of those things. So if you are someone who's feeling that, like that you say that, right? Like 30% is not a small number of the total population, right? And research I've seen on students is right, it's a lot higher. It's even higher.
Like a lot of times.
Correct. Take a look at: are you noticeably more irritable or sad? Do you have any kind of fleeting, hopeless or helpless feelings with no real reason for that?
Sure.
Are you enjoying life or enjoying things less?
Yeah.
Are you eating or sleeping more or less? Particularly, are you having difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep? Those are pretty good indicators that you're dealing with some anxiety.
Yeah, that's good. If you're kind of stuck staying up at night, lots of thoughts keeping your mind racing, stuff like that.
Racing
especially
thoughts.
On a consistent basis, probably.
Correct.
Yeah.
Are you having changes in your energy? Are you feeling tired or sluggish, or are you feeling tense and restless?
Yeah.
Are you having trouble concentrating or thinking or paying attention to things? That can be a sign of anxiety or depression.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Or are you having fleeting feelings of worthlessness or feeling useless or feeling guilty without cause?
Yeah.
Those are some signs that you might be anxious or might be a bit depressed. Anxiety and depression are kind of close cousins.
Okay.
And people who suffer from one often suffer from the other as well.
Sure.
It's a kind of pair, a tandem that often accompany each other.
Okay, so if you're noticing signs for one, it's not maybe the most helpful to be like, I'm just anxious, I'm not depressed. It's maybe worth just kind of exploring.
It's worth it to investigate it further, just to dig in to find out.
You know, depression, anxiety, and stress are being talked about at a national level, and I think sometimes people maybe get mixed messages from Christians or from church, or maybe if they don't get mixed messages, maybe they feel sometimes like, I shouldn't be feeling this as a Christian. I should find joy in Jesus. How do you kind of look at these things with a Christian viewpoint?
I see fear and guilt as God-given protective mechanisms.
Sure.
Those things are intended kind of like a fire alarm or a smoke detector. They alert us to potential dangers, and they hopefully move us towards safety.
Yeah, okay.
Toward healthy things.
Sure.
That's what our conscience functions. It's kind of like the alarm system of the soul.
Yeah.
And fear, it's a protective mechanism.
They're not fun to experience, they're negative, but God's given them to us as a way to be aware of something bigger, to be aware that we need to maybe do something.
To protect us from threats.
Wow.
And it can become unhealthy and unhelpful when that alarm system becomes hypersensitive.
Sure.
And it goes off when threats aren't significant, or
okay,
not an authentic threat. The idea that we should never have any concerns or anxieties or fears if we're a believer, that's really not a genuine, it's not an accurate portrayal.
Well, it's not like Christians never get sick. It's not like any other system in our body never has issues, right?
Courage is not the absence of fear. It's courage is acting in the presence of fear. Mm-hmm. And so, we can't be fearless, but we can learn to fear less.
Yeah.
Fear or anxiety or concern can be a healthy, helpful thing. It can become unhealthy when anxious thoughts, fearful thoughts, when they start dominating your thinking.
Sure.
When you're becoming preoccupied, when you're constantly thinking about something and you can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about racing thoughts.
For sure, yeah.
Have you ever engaged in that what-if game?
Oh gosh,
What
yeah,
if
where you
this
start
happens,
trying
and
to
then
fill
if
in
this,
the blank, and
our imaginations run away with us.
Yeah.
And we exaggerate the potential consequences. That's when that can become unhealthy.
So for our students that, like I said, this is something I think is on a lot of our minds. What are maybe some practical things for them? Some practical responses to maybe if they've noticed these things, or like where do you start? Because this can feel very overwhelming, right? To just know about
My
all
first
this.
tip would be know yourself.
Okay.
Is this experience unusual for me? That's the good question. Is it unusual? Is it not typical of me? Because that is probably a good indicator.
Something's changed.
Something's changed.
Sure, yeah.
So know yourself. And get feedback from others who know you well. Have they noticed changes in you?
Yeah, sure.
Do they have concerns about the way that you might be presenting or behaving or your mood? Mm-hmm. That's a good issue. As somebody who knows about the symptoms of anxiety, have they seen some of those in you? That's a good question.
Yeah, someone should
So
know.
we all feel anxious time to time,
Yeah.
but is it becoming more consistent, more
sure.
chronic?
Sure, you get anxious before a test,
And you
I
should.
still get nervous before a big HCU event, before we take people to a camp or something. I'm like, oh my goodness, but that doesn't indicate necessarily a long-term problem.
No,
it indicates I know something big's coming up. Right?
If you have anticipatory anxiety, it probably is a sign that you're a conscientious person and you care about doing well.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. We don't want to get rid of all anxiety.
Yeah. So know yourself. Second one, tell on yourself. Let a parent or a pro know if you've noticed changes and you're not feeling well.
Yeah.
That's really important. Don't try to stuff or hide your feelings or just leave it in your head. When you talk it out, it'll right-size it. Mm-hmm. So that's really helpful. Know yourself, tell on yourself, take better care of yourself.
Sure, yeah.
That's make sure that you're eating and sleeping well, and if you've noticed changes in either, tell on yourself and get some feedback.
Yeah, so sleeping. We just got to address this. Staying up, having your phone in front of your face. I'm guilty of it so often. Sleep and eating. Important.
Are you eating more or are you eating less? Do you have a blunted appetite?
Yeah.
Are you craving sweets or carbs? Those are good indicators.
Yeah, okay, wow. That's wild. But yeah, your diet, right? I think going back to the idea that like our systems can get off and stuff, and like I said, God made us very complex. I think one of the crazy things is like changing the way I think can change the way I behave, right? Like our body, our mind, like it's all very interconnected. God made us so uniquely and so
changing
beautiful.
how I behave can affect changing how I think and feel.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So I think having a regular schedule for your wake-sleep time is so important.
Yeah.
They call that your circadian rhythm.
Your iPhone
so
helps
important.
with that, by the way. There's an app on there, right? You're like...
Be careful about what you consume.
If
you consume, rotten food, you're likely to get ill. If you're consuming rotten, rotten information, there's a lot of unpleasant information out there.
Yeah.
That can injure you, I think.
Sure.
I would suggest going on a digital diet and really focusing on taking in things that are inspiring. Taking in truth in particular. Tackle tasks that make you feel good, that give you a sense of accomplishment. Something that I follow, make your bed immediately when you get up in the morning. You'll have accomplished a task and you'll get on a roll for the day.
You're someone who does things.
You'll feel more organized
Yeah.
if you organize your environment and your life. Clean up your room. Simple task, you'll feel better. Make your bed first thing in the morning. You'll feel like you're accomplishing things. Make positive plans.
Yeah.
Make positive plans to tackle tasks, to socialize with friends, especially making sure that you connect with others. Connect with those helpful, healthy, holy people that are in your life that will inspire you and comfort you and encourage you in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's important too.
That's good.
Shift the spotlight too. Think about how can I look beyond myself and give a helping hand to this week. It might be a neighbor in need. Yesterday I made some stuffed peppers and I took one to an elderly neighbor who was recently widowed. You know what? It made her feel great. It made me feel good too.
Yeah.
Had a little giver's high.
That's amazing.
It's a good
Pastor
one.
Kevin has one of the biggest and best gardens I've ever seen. This guy is like basically Farmer Kevin, if we're being honest. It's
And
awesome.
I got out this morning. I did what was healthy. I got up, made my bed, took our dog for a walk around the ball fields of Ike and Mallow, enjoyed a beautiful walk, and then I spent a little time gardening
It's a
in
dream.
the warm sun.
That's the dream right there. You're living a life, PK.
My last tip is this: make prayer a first response instead of a last resort.
Yeah.
That's what Paul says in Philippians 4, 6, and 7. In a nutshell, he says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. If you do this, you'll experience God's peace. So if you have concerns, don't let them rattle around in your head. Don't try to stuff them. Take it to God and tell on yourself to somebody else.
Yeah.
So that they can comfort, encourage you, and pray with you and support you.
Not trying to just handle it, not trying to stuff it down, not trying to ignore it. I think that's great. All these things are they're practical, they're doable, they're things you can try, right? They're things that you can do. You can make your bed. You can tell somebody. You can connect with somebody. These are all manageable, and it feels like a lot. Maybe start small and
Start small, but you have to. We all have a decision in life. Are we going to be driven by our fears and phobias, or we're going to be driven by our dreams and ambitions and goals and God-given vision? I want to choose to be driven by those things. Want more information? I was thinking about this is probably a good book that I'd recommend. It's a real short little one by a psychologist who is also a Christian, Freedom from Anxiety and Depression.
Thing, right? There are some things you can do on your own, but there's also some things where it's definitely worth going to a professional. There's no shame there. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's taking the steps to get that system healthy, like you were talking about, right?
We all need coaches in our lives.
Yeah, for sure. Nobody's going to shame you for going to a doctor. We shouldn't shame you for going to another professional that's going to help you experience that whole life God has for you, right?
And make sure that you're taking in truth. Make sure that you're kind of sticking your nose in the scriptures every day, taking a little bite-sized bit. That'll help give you perspective, God's perspective. That'll help increase your awareness. And the scripture has a lot of strategies and skill sets. Think of the word pass.
Pass.
Perspective, awareness, strategies, and skill sets. You can get them from scriptures. You can get them from social science professionals.
Thank you so much for
welcome,
sitting
Steve.
down, sharing some thoughts with me and with HC Youth. I think
I hope you find them helpful.
This is so good, and thanks for coming to Hockey Talk, guys.